Morning all. I had a game against Cengis Hasman, who I've played a few times before. I think 2 draws now, 1 loss, 1 win. And we're both at ECF 199 at the moment. So this is the first time we've met in this particular league, the Middlesex Division 1. I wanted to gain a small positional advantage from the opening, so I played knight f3 with a view of kind of English opening, which sometimes has led to some nice wins. But he played quite solidly actually, but it was like a King's Engine, and I was kind of tempted actually. Should I have gone into the mainline King's Engine, this invitation? You know, there's things like the bayonet attack with the quick b4, or should I just carry on with the English opening? I carried on actually with the English opening with g3, with the idea of later d3, not d4, which is a bit tame actually. The game looks a bit tame from White's angle. I never really had. Maybe there was one or two opportunities in this game actually for an advantage. But it's nothing really to write home about. So after knight c6 d3, so this is a bit tame. I mean, I could try for the fianchetto variation d4, but I don't really know too many lines offhand. But maybe that's the best way for playing in theory for the advantage here. So after e5, anyway, I tried to just put a squeeze on the queen side. So this standard b4, b5, dislodge this knight and maybe fracture the pawn chain at some point, playing b6 or c5. So that's the plan. He played a5, which kind of, I don't know, it shares the a file, so encouraging an exchange of rooks later if I'm ever going to play rook a1. So a3, h6. So he's ruling out any knight g5s in lines, and also maybe he could potentially be playing for f5, but that doesn't happen in this game. I just expand on the queen side. Bishop e6, now b5. Knight swings back, and now bishop b2. So I'm just content with my small advantage in space. It's quite a quick time limit actually. This build set, it's like 13.25 or something. But then you get 15 minutes. So I don't know. Queen d7, rook a1. So trying to do something on the queen side. Maybe optimistic that my queen could infiltrate later if he let me, but it doesn't happen. Bishop h3, queen b3. He exchanges bishops, so slightly weakens my king. And now slightly weakens his light squares, which I thought, well, this might give me something to play on, this slight weakening of these squares. So I thought I could exchange off rooks here, maybe this other rook, if I exchange off, then later that really rules out an attack by him with this rook on f8. So he did exchange rooks, and I was sort of optimistic that maybe I could do something with a queen infiltration here to these two squares and start playing, you know, a later c5 to try and undermine either e5 or push b6 if my queen was on a7. So there's various plans to do with the queen side here, but he plays knight h5, which maybe in some lines is going to threaten knight f4 and queen g4. But also here I was actually worried about e4 as a possibility because of this pin, but maybe this is harmless. So say takes this line. So let's actually check this move with an engine. This particular tactical move, e4. Is it any good? What does Rebecca think of this? Oh, I could just take. Yeah, okay. Take. Oh, this is hopeless. I don't take here, I take on g7. Oh, with an advantage. In theory, but not too much of the line. Knight takes, h takes, king takes. 0.43 of an advantage. Okay, so that's fine. So in this position, it seems after bishop takes a1, there's no problem with this loose bishop. Okay. Turn off the engine. So knight h5, queen a2, anyway, protecting the bishop. Also this infiltration plan combined with the potential for c5 at some point. But queen g4, so I play a check and I get a nice pin. Now e3 to stop this knight f4, queen f5. So he's on d3. I'm a bit cautious. I'm not sure I wanted to weaken c4, but that happens very soon anyway. So knight e4. The queen actually drops back as if he's going to play d5. So again I go to c3. Actually I don't really want d5, and he goes back to f5, and I thought this is kind of a virtual draw offer. So I try and avoid it here, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I can try and tear open this diagonal and make use of this pin somehow. Maybe try and get a piece on f6 if I'm really optimistic. If I can drive back this knight with a later h3 and g4 maybe. It's all a bit optimistic. After d4 I am weakening c4. That's the harsh reality, which provides a useful entry point into my position in the few variations coming up. So e takes d4, knight takes d4. It's a shame. I don't think there's enough of an advantage to play of, but there is an opportunity coming up with this queen on Cengis's first row. So queen d7. Okay. Now after knight c2, I'm thinking a long time for knight c2 to try and play a pawn sack on c4. Try and keep hold of black playing d5. So I want to play knight b4 to d5, and maybe even sack this pawn if he goes back to e6. So he did go back to e6, and I did play the pawn sack. But it's just a dead draw, this line. I thought it was going to be crushing, so did he, and he didn't take on c4. But if he takes on c4, this knight d5 isn't as strong as we both thought, because knight takes, he's got to draw a perpetual here. Although I'm threatening knight e7, which is really dangerous, and this diagonal is really unleashed, he's just got check, a simple check, perpetual, because here my king can't escape because queen f5, and if g4, f3, my queen's not protecting f3. Now unfortunately, fortunately for me, well, it doesn't matter, it was a draw anyway, but let's actually rewind a few moves. I've just missed out. I realised the variation which I might have been able to try and get an advantage. Instead of knight c3 here, an engine was suggesting queen d8, and I thought at the time, well, I ruled this out because of queen c8, just simplifying. But actually, maybe this endgame is not too bad because of g4. Because now, if I'm getting knight f6 to e8, I'll be on c7. So if that forces f5, which is the engine's suggestion here, then the desperado knight takes d6, attacking c8. No, I didn't see any of this. So both knights attacked. So knight takes, g takes, e4, so fracturing c4. D takes, say, f takes, knight d2, bishop g7, and white's slightly better here. Possibly I've got an advantage in this endgame, but I missed that. So queen d8 may have been a good winning attempt in theory, apparently. So anyway, so this knight. So let's go forward again. Knight c3, queen f5. So I try and open up this diagonal, and I've just weakened c4. And anyway, he attacks c4, but I use it as a pawn sack, which he ignores. He just plays knight f6. So so I play knight c6, try and get my queen back in, protect c4, which he allows. And after queen e7, I want to stop potential liberations, and also not have my knight continually protect e4. So I played e4 myself with the idea of f3. So bishop g7, f3. The problem is I'm sort of weakening a few squares, like these squares in particular. So there's potential entry points here. King h7, bishop b2, and now after h5 he offers a draw, and we're before the 15-minute bonus time actually. A few minutes before, so I've got about 15 minutes left, and I did have a long think. I didn't immediately accept, but I just couldn't see any concrete way of getting an advantage here. And there seems to be a few pitfalls in the position. For example, if I did allow g5 and g4, and e4 will be undermined. Probably the best move is h4 to stop this g5 actually. h4, and there's still some play here. I mean, let's stick an engine on here. I think it's a small advantage in theory. Okay, so 0.45 bishop c1 or h4. So there's two choices, bishop c1 or h4. So let's have a look at bishop c1, because that also rules out g5 from black. So say bishop h6, say these bishops came off. Now h4 again to stop this g5, g4, because this would really be using black's semi-open e file. It's 0.27 advantage now. Queen d7, queen d8 rather. Okay, let's go for this knight maneuver. Knight d1, knight e3. It's just solid for black here. It's just like 0.3. It's not really much of an advantage. There's f4. Try and push black back, but where is this heading? Black's still got a solid position. Knight d5, queen a8. Right, trying to come around the second rank. Okay, so say knight takes. This is apparently is a draw. Queen b3. So, oh yeah, hitting g3. So this kind of stuff would be so we're a long way off here. If we go back to the final position, so bishop c1, but it's nothing really to write home about. Let's have a look at the game. It's a bit of a timid game. Let's have a look at it in overview and summary. So I didn't really get much of an advantage with the white pieces. So that's 3 draws now in the last 3 encounters with Cengis. Yes, yes, it was a bit sterile this game, but I was just trying. You know, maybe if black had played more ambitiously with f5, there might have been more. You know, later with f5 at the right moments, there might have been more opportunities for a bigger advantage. But black, his pawn structure was very solid, I thought, in this game, generally. And it was my pawn structure was weakened for this attempt to carry on the game to avoid a draw by repetition. So I've weakened c4. So I have actually compromised my position a bit. This tactical idea doesn't actually work. So I thought I was being really clever here with this pawn sack, but it can actually be taken. So we both miscalculated there. And this knight c6 just gives me solid small advantage, which I don't really know how to convert into a concrete, more concrete, well, bigger advantage. But no, h5. Sorry, there was no bishop a3. Looking at this line with bishop c1. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube? Yeah, thanks very much.